Hi Beth, it's Heidi. I'm going to give this a try talking on camera because I'm wildly uncomfortable and it's probably a skill that I need to improve upon. So I appreciate the opportunity to do it. I think I stink at it. So why would you go into teaching if you don't like to talk in front of people? It's a good question. Our curriculum developers stopped by today from the district office. He's never done that before. And we had just done a lesson. I wonder if I have it here on my desk. I don't see it right here. We had just done a really neat beginning of a lesson in the 6th grade where for a BTS, Beverly Taylor Sorensen project, that they are working on their autobiographies and taking what I had been learning from Kelby and the class with Jared. I wrote a curriculum plan for this group. So they were going to visually represent their autobiography with a horizon line. Then we would block in positive and negative space. They'd choose that, and then we would do a print. Okay, so we're day 3 of that project, and it really did turn out pretty amazing. We've had some epiphanies. We've talked about flipping your story and finding the positive space, which was a literal instruction in the activity, and then we started to see some figurative language there. And it was amazing. Well, curriculum developer stopped by, and my principal's like, show them that lesson that you just did. And so I grabbed it and stood in the hall, and my other class was sitting in here working in centers. And I told him, and I was excited about it. And he's like, we need to get this on camera. We need to record you telling this story. Like, we really don't. I really, really don't like doing this. So obviously I've got some work to do about feeling comfortable and looking at myself in the camera and just like seeing every flaw. Oh, I feel so eloquent as I try to communicate, but I'm going to give it a shot. So I've already wasted 2 minutes just lining up how hard this is. But here we go. I really loved the readings this week. The videos, I don't have great notes on because I watched them both in the bathtub, but I watched them twice, and the whole time I kept saying, yes, yes, that's what I believe. How do I do this? This is exactly what I've been wanting to reach, but I have so much room to get there. And then I did the readings, and I just found some pieces that stood out to me, and then I just want to share what I feel like was the umbrella over all of the reading. And as looking at that and looking at my notes, I think, oh, this is very similar to my reflections of last week, but hopefully you'll bear with me. I'm also going to include an assignment that I did for Jared's class that fits into this really well, and hopefully just give you my perceptions on when we talk about 21st century thinking skills through the arts lens. So first of all, I'm going to go forward, the frames of mind, and afterward, and just the little bits that stood out. But on the forward, there was really just 2 things that I'm like, that's great. And when she said, Steve Seidel said, calls advocating for the arts the curricular stepchild, marginalized afterthought. And I see that, and I hear it, and we hear, and he even goes on to talk about how in urban communities that's more so, and yet we see in these suburbs where we have parental involvement and higher education of parents that the arts are thriving and they have more space in their curriculum. And I would really like to see more research on that, because I don't think we could advocate and say that they're conversely true. Like, if we spend more time in arts, we'll have more time for curriculum, although I do think there's that piece, because I do think the home component is big and the parents' involvement. But I think that if we teach our kids how to think like an artist, which I also think is thinking like a scientist and an engineer, then that's where they can express their thoughts and feelings through their artwork. That's where they can dig a little deeper and start looking for problems and solving problems. So the other thing that I really liked in the foreword is it talked about cultural boundaries being crossed in the digital realm, and I felt a personal connection to that. Before I came back to teaching, I had taught about 5-6 years in the classroom and in the gifted ed environment, and then I had 2 babies on an ultrasound, and it was time for a break. So during that time I really got into sewing. It's something I love, and have really built a community through many different countries and even different languages through things like blogs and Instagram, and have very dear friends that I can ask how to put in an invisible zipper, but then I can also talk to them about moving here for divorce or coming back into teaching and how do I still find time to sew, those kinds of things. So I loved that in the foreword. In terms of the frames of mind, the big bulk, the big one, I'm going to skim over it. There was a lot that I liked. Having worked with gifted education, I know a little bit or enough to be familiar with multiple intelligences, and I think it's a great start. And I really loved the way that, as this is Jennifer Groff, the author here, talked about it's a good first step. But I think it's the same idea as being right-brained or left-brained and saying, oh yeah, I can't do that. I don't do that. I'm a math person. And I think we really put ourselves in boxes, or students in boxes, when we don't recognize that this strength builds on another strength. But I did love something where they said to build on the non-strengths and the term of multimodal education. And I think that's where the whole brain and whole, how did they frame it? It's the entire piece. Should we just say whole brain? That's where I'm going with it. I have one quote though. Simply put, our cognitive processing systems are the foundation for our engagement with the world. Helping learners develop and more critically understand how to use and leverage their own processing systems as tools which to engage with the world is central to healthy, rich, and balanced cognitive development. And that's where I'm going to lean heavy. Although the afterword was the shortest part of our reading, I feel like this is where I really truly connect. And that is that we need to teach our kids how to think, how to wonder, how to look, how to find problems, how to really turn on their brain and engage. And that's what I see when they're coming in the art room, is they come in, we talk about procedures and what to expect in this room, and then for the most part, it's a very difficult thing to get them to turn on, to ask questions, to communicate their learning. And even when I know that they're getting it and they are learning, to find the words to share that. So she shared an example of when I look at the leaves, I don't know how to be skilled enough to paint them. But the thing that I feel like we're missing is teaching kids to look at the leaves. They're not looking for the most part, and they're experiencing world and connections, but they may not have taken that minute to connect to learning and then start asking questions and digging deeper. So I feel like that teaching them to wonder is really the integral point. In terms of the videos, and this piece here, I think this leads right into it. We're talking a lot about an engineering cycle in our school. And there's a lot of buzzwords. Gosh, I'm trying to think of all the things that we were all hyped up on when I was teaching the first time around. But if I were to put in my 2 cents, and I hope that I don't put myself in a box or get stuck in a rut, but I feel like more than anything, we don't need to call this 21st thinking skills. We don't need to use the word STEAM. And we keep saying integration, and that's where I really, really am an advocate for integration. But I think the piece that what we could call this is all connection. That we're connecting to our own cultures and personal lives, that we're connecting to our family stories, that we're connecting to our personal strengths like multiple intelligences. We're connecting cross-culturally. We're connecting to other people and our communities and political, the political climate. It's more about connection. So we're seeing, we're wondering, and then we're connecting. And my job as an art teacher, and specifically part of my salary is through Beverly Taylor Swenson Grant, is to connect through art. And I think that that's the key component. So if we can teach kids to wonder, that's the beginning of the scientific method. It's the beginning of engineering process. And I really believe it's the beginning of the art process also. So I'm going to connect, I'm going to load up the video that I created about 21st century thinking skills and how I use them here in the art room. And I hope I didn't bore you. I spent 9 minutes. How did that happen? I think I have a lot to say. I just am afraid to say it, or I don't know how to say it. And I certainly don't know how to condense it and be clear. So I'm going to keep working on that. But thanks for being patient with me as I'm trying to be comfortable in front of this camera. Okay, thanks, Beth. I hope you're having a great week. I do plan on coming up to some of the meetings, but this week I'm still moving in. I renovated a little house, and we just barely got plumbing a couple days ago. So I'm going to keep working on the house a little bit tonight, and then instead I'll come up on another Thursday. Okay, or whatever day of the week you do it. Okay, talk to you later. Thanks, Beth.